And in the second half of the day, we're starting with a panel discussion today. We have over 18 to 19 speakers from across the world coming here in a hybrid mode to express their perspectives and views in terms of opportunities for women in sciences, gender equality, and avenues for changes. Yeah, so I'll quickly mention how the panel discussion will work. We'll call our in-person panelists, whoever are present here on the stage, and we'll give each panelist, online as well as in-person panelists, 5 minutes time, roughly 4 to 5 minutes to talk. And once all the panelists are done with their expressing their views and opinions, then we will have a discussion with the audience where all the audience welcome to ask any questions they have to the panelists, and then we can open for discussion. Also, if you don't want to ask a question upfront, you can write it down and pass it on to either Sandeep or Brinda, who will be present in the audience. Okay, so we'll start. I would now like to invite all the panelists who are attending in person to please come on stage. Please, Dr. Aditi Deshpande, Dr. Swapna Panikar, Dr. Surya Chandra Rao, Dr. C. Granasilan, Dr. Ashwini Kulkarni, Dr. Akshara, Dr. Roxy Matthew, Dr. Milind Majumdar, I think you can take any seat you want. There's no set order. And we've arranged the seats this way so that when online discussion is going on, you should be able to see the screen. Hello. Hello. Yeah, so we have our panelists on stage as well as online. So we'll start with the inaugural session of this panel discussion. We welcome Dr. Estelle de Koning, WMO Geneva, Head of World Weather Research, to kindly give her inaugural talk on the topic of opportunities for women and gender equality in weather science. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? Good.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to celebrate women in weather and climate sciences with you. And what a privilege to be in the company of so many successful scientists, and so many of them female. I am pleased to say that it is also important for WMO to achieve gender equality and to empower women while we build climate resilient societies. To this end, WMO is committed to mainstreaming gender and its governance, work structures, programs, and service delivery. WMO is also determined to attract more women in the field of science and meteorology. Ensuring that women have equal rights to science and education and technology is an essential catalyst to ensure that the developers and users of weather, water, and climate services provided by the WMO and its members serve the global community. This commitment strengthens the position of women as scientists, technologists, and users of weather, water, and climate services, and it also fosters increased participation of women in these decision-making and policy-making activities. As part of the actions to promote female roles in the WMO community, I can note the appointment of various new female representatives to WMO from various regions, and also in leadership roles in the leading bodies of WMO. In 2021, Dr. Amanda Lynch became the chair of the research board, which oversees the work of the WMO's research programs. These women's achievements and their ways to overcome challenges and their passion for the profession inspires new female scientists, and this is definitely worth celebrating. The World Weather Research Program, or WWRP, promotes international and interdisciplinary research for more accurate and reliable forecasts on a timescale from minutes to seasons. We try to expand the frontiers of weather science to enhance society's resilience to high-impact weather events. We promote and encourage regional as well as gender balance in all our activities, and we are very proud that 40% of our community is female. In the small secretariat team of WWRP, we are 4 women and 1 man. He's outnumbered. And 2 of these women are young early career scientists. WWRP also celebrates its 25th birthday this year, as you can see in the background of my presentation. Recently, we celebrated the achievement of one of our members of the WWRP community, Dr. Elizabeth Ebert, who was part of the scientific steering committee of the WWRP since 2015. She was acknowledged by the Australian Academy of Technology and Science Engineering for her innovation and excellence in the field of meteorology at the end of 2023. Beth is a senior principal research scientist and head of forecast quality research at the Australian Bureau of Meteorology. To a great extent, Beth has helped to shape the WWRP in what it is today. And this is just one example of how women in the WWRP program community excel as scientists. I can also note that WWRP is a partner in a new wider funded project that will deliver in South Africa, Mozambique, and Zambia. And this project is led by the University of Leeds. In this project, we will follow a gender equality and social inclusion approach to ensure equality for all. By working alongside the Disaster Risk Reduction Act, the project will aim to support co-production of nowcasting and forecasting alerts that are accessible, useful, and used by a diversity of urban population groups, including women and people with disabilities. For me personally, I was raised to believe that one must work hard and do your best in everything you do. And I was fortunate to be connected to international science activities related to my field of expertise. And this opened doors for international collaboration, also through WMO Group. It was a wonderful opportunity to join the WMO in 2016 to see science from a more global perspective. And now, as the head of the World Weather Research Program, I enjoy working with international experts more than ever before. And I'm very proud to be part of the planning and execution of current and future plans for our program. It can, of course, be challenging at times, but I try to keep positive outlook, and I think that's the key to success. I look forward to continue working with international experts, especially women and early career scientists. So can women be successful in science? Of course, yes. Many women have overcome many obstacles to be the first women in many areas of their career, and they pave the way for others to follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pane, for inaugurating the session, firstly, and also for giving all the delightful information about the avenues available for women at the WRP. Thank you so much. So next, we move on to Professor Rama Govindarajan, who is a professor at International Center for Theoretical Physics, TIFR Bangalore, who has joined us online.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. In my 5 minutes, I just wrote out a few action points that we could consider to improve the lot of women in science. And basically, I'm going to speak from an engineer's perspective, and I'm going to look at the change over the last 3 decades. So in terms of numbers, we're of course doing far better than we were doing 30 years ago, although we have a long way to go. Another positive that I see is that blatant avowed discrimination which used to be very standard in those days, is not eradicated, but I would say it's significantly reduced. However, there is indirect discrimination, there is unconscious bias, and these things are still very rampant. So I think that we as a society in this subject need to do compulsory training for everybody against unconscious bias. So this is the first thing that I would recommend, that it should be compulsory for all of us, irrespective of gender, to go through this training once a year. And another thing is to make sure that interview committees and places where women and men come in to compete are made, diverse in terms of gender. So the other thing is that we may need a re-examination of how we deal with reported sexual misdemeanor cases. Like there, it seems to be instances where they're not dealt with sufficiently strictly, and that the time has come to re-examine that. More than all that, the time has come to expand what we call as, women or, gender minorities, to extend our anti-discrimination stance to people of minority gender identities, to different sexual orientations, such as LGBT people, who are, left in the lurch very often in our system. And secondly, like also expand the concept of discrimination to other things such as religion and caste-based situations. So these are the things that I wanted to say today. So thanks very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Ramagovindrajan, for these numbers, and it was very insightful, things that you mentioned. I would now like to ask Dr. Surya Chandra Rao, who is present here in person, to express his views on the topic today.
First of all, I should thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk on this dais for the role of women in weather and climate sciences. So, when I was looking at different information about the climate changes, the first thing I came across was that I don't know how many people really know about this. There is another Newton in climate sciences, not that Isaac Newton. So that Newton is a lady scientist, and she is the one who has first identified that certain gases in the atmosphere can enhance or increase the temperature of the atmosphere. So we all should be very proud that the first scientist who has really identified the global warming concept is a lady, and she is also, her name is, complete name I don't remember, but she is in Newton as well. So, as Indian saying is there, that wherever in Bhagavad Gita there is one line, translated to English, that prosperity is possible only where women are respected and valued. And I am proud that our country follows those principles. And also this organization, wherein I am also very proud that this organization also follows the same principles as that. So I was looking at this, one of the videos played before this session, and noticed that each woman scientist in this organization is contributing to 2 papers every year. That is an incredible effort done by the women scientists of this organization. So if you look at the total average is about 1.7 or so per scientist in IIT as of today. But the women are contributing much more than each woman is contributing at least 2 publications in a year. So where are we? Why are we talking about this topic? So when they are doing really well in this field, and also there are so many women are leading the programs in IIT at this moment. Particularly Tara, I don't know, I don't see her. Okay. So Field campaigns means earlier we used to think it is only for men because there's so many other constraints. As a being a woman, you have to go through this, take care of household, and she is a very good example. She has successfully completed, I don't know, more than 100 hours of flight. That is not an easy feat. So actually, people are doing outdoing men. So there is no need of any equality. So, but all this said and done, one bad thing that is happening in the country as such is that the sex ratio in country is actually not very good. It was about 940 to every 1,000 men. That is the current status. So that is where we have to really start making that sex ratio is equal. Then only other things can improve. So that is where we have to make. Of course, there are some states which are literate, like Kerala, Puducherry, Andhra Pradesh, and all. Sex ratio is very 50-50%. But other places it is very, very bad. And also, I have noticed one more thing that very few girls go to the climate sciences, and most of them get the jobs. So there also you are outdoing the men. So everywhere you are really doing very well. So there is one thing that has to be done. If you have to make everything equal, then the number of students to enroll in climate sciences, they have to increase. And as such, you are getting good opportunities because of your own merit, not because of any reservations. So you are all doing very well, and I wish you that the same trend should continue. I also noticed one more statistics. The first IPCC report, the women scientists were about 8%. Today, that is reached almost more than 30 or 35%. Okay, 33%. So we are really progressing much faster than anything. So I really congratulate all of you on this, and also thank you for giving me this opportunity. So only one thing that recommendation is that you have to make sure that the intake in the climate science, the more enrollments in the climate science, definitely will make this gender balance possible in very near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Really thank you for highlighting the contribution of women in general to science and especially IITM. And it's definitely a point to be raised, like women should be encouraged to join climate science more, which is not still at par. So yeah, so moving on, thank you so much, sir. Moving on, we have our next panelist, Professor Chandra Venkatraman, who is a professor at IDP for Climate Studies, IIT Bombay. She has joined us online. Professor Venkatraman, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. We have all been inspired in meteorology and in earth science by Dr. Anna Mani, who was one of the early Deputy Director Generals of IMD and perhaps one of the first physicists in the country to be part of meteorological sciences. And we've also been inspired by Dr. Sudipta Sengupta, who in 1984, I remember being inspired by reading in the newspaper that she was the first Indian woman to join an Antarctic expedition. She led, then, had her career at Jadavpur University. Having recognized the role of our mentors as well as all the colleagues who are striving a great deal um, to make our contributions, I would like to point out a few things. For one, there is a huge gap between women PhD graduates and women spending an entire career in science in India. So this is one major gap. We have women PhD students even in physical sciences and engineering between 25 to 35%, but in institutions like the IITs, like the TIFRs, like the IISc, our faculty ratio is only 8% in engineering and pushing past 15% in science. So there is a huge gap in women having a full career in science. There is also a huge gap in women being in any positions of power. In terms of directors of institutions, etc., you have, an example here, an example there, etc., etc. So, given that this is our reality, and we understand that it is not just a social equity question, the question is that having women in science, in climate science, in atmospheric science, in every type of science and engineering is necessary, A, for scientific output, and it's a loss of productivity for society if we don't have women in science. The second thing is women bring diversity. And not just gender diversity, as Professor Rama pointed out, we need diversity in economic class, in caste, in personal and sexual orientation, etc., etc. What does this diversity do to science? It has been investigated by various people, Oxford University, Professor Witts, amongst others, that or diverse groups, culturally diverse groups, tend to go against status quo more readily than groups that are dominated by certain culturally dominant people. So this means that diverse groups will be willing to examine new hypotheses, not just the currently accepted theories in science. And therefore, it is almost essential to bring diversity into science in order to improve the quality of our science, the breadth of our science, and so on. So having said this, what might we do both personally, institutionally, and among, through our professional societies? One thing is that we need to really relentlessly put out the message to reach young women that a full career in science is something that they must absolutely aspire to, that as well as institutions must be persuaded about the steps needed in order to enable this. I'm very sorry to tell you that I just a few months back had a postdoctoral scientist quit because of family pressures to essentially go and look after her mother-in-law through many months of an operation. I had a much more privileged PhD student not go to a full career in science because she eventually, went into a family where she started supporting their, medical practice. So somehow we are not reaching young women and persuading them sufficiently that they owe it to themselves to have a full career in science. So this is one. The second thing is institutions need, of course, to make sure that there is no entry barrier, in that we are recruiting. There are no recruitment biases between men and women. And even if these recruitment biases are eliminated, we have very few women applying to many institutions and many positions. Otherwise, why do we have 8% women faculty when we have 20 to 30% women graduates of PhDs, right? So it becomes sort of incumbent on institutions to go out and identify who are the sufficiently qualified, sufficiently excellent people to induct. And, once we have women, there is a lot that institutions need to do to ensure their progress, their promotion, the abilities they have to advance in their careers. And of course, there are two sides to this. One is mentoring mechanisms within the institution that have young faculty, young scientists, young women researchers being mentored to have promotions at the same space as men to publish, to network, etc. But on the other hand, institutions have to provide high quality, good childcare on campuses, because this becomes essential to women being able to perform their dual roles, the huge demands that society places on them in order to fulfill family expectations as well as what they may have for their own achievements. So I know that this is a lot of things, and I'm sure many others have many ideas. I just wanted to flag some of these things, that we really have a long way to go in terms of maintaining and advancing our institutional cultures to make the advancements of women more, to improve it, to help it along. So thank you very much.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we can't hear. I think it's muted.
Am I audible now?
So coming back to today's problem, empowerment. So, I mean, the previous speakers have suggested the opportunities, avenues, and he suggested the some solutions, highlighted the problems. But to me, you can't solve this problem because it's a process. Empowerment is a process which has to be nurtured, which is originated at a grassroots level. You know, when a child is born, the issue is already created. I mean, you have to correct it there. See, we have to find out the root cause and correct it. For that, the change should happen at home level, basic level, and then come to the society level, and then institute level or ministry level or government level or international level. But unless you correct it in the grassroots level, I don't think this problem, what we say, has any solutions. And we can always be proud of saying that our goddesses of wealth or health or wisdom are all women. So we have that culture. But I don't think this is really put in practice in by our society. So now you can always point out many successful women in our science field or engineering field. But if you do some research on that, you can clearly understand there will be one common cause. They get complete, full support from their home, or they don't care about their home. So then only you get success. So problem is, you need to address this. But we always talk about a women's scientist, a women's career. We always advise them to have a work-life balance. Why not that is applicable for men? See, this is a question because the women are equally generating the resources. So the balance is required for the society, not only for women. Coming to parenting, we can always say there are limitations, they are given by nature, but that has to be balanced by there are other activities. Parenting is not only for women, parenting is for parents. It's not mothering. You are calling it parenting, and but you give it to only mother. This has to change if you want to really change the really empower women. Well, like that nowadays, if you look at the society, the household works. I mean, the contribution from men is also now improved, but still, it has to change drastically to really real empowerment has to take place. So I think I'm taking a lot of your time. So thank you. I wish all the best for the team and the program. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nanasilan. I agree with you, it is definitely a process, and you spoke like a true scientist, going to the root cause and then building upon it fundamentally. Thank you very much, sir. I would now like to invite Dr. Purnima Jalivan, who will be joining us online from NIOT Chennai. Purnima, can you hear me? Yeah, she's not. Okay, then I think we'll move to Professor Sunita. She's head of the department in the Andhra University. Professor Sunita, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Professor Sunita,
Yeah. Am I audible to you?
can you hear us?
Yes. Hello. Am I audible to you?
Yes, you are.
Oh, thank you. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Community and ladies and gentlemen.
Excuse me, ma'am, can you please keep your mic a little closer?
Hello.
Yes, that's better.
Am I audible to you? Am I
Yes.
audible to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Esteemed Mac Ocean community, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, everyone. And it's a great honor for us to interact with all of you. And it's an inspiration to see such an eminent personalities from, in the morning session, Professor Sulochana Gadgil, ma'am. And before going to that, I would like to remember the foresight of the Mr. Jyotirao Phule and Mrs. Savitri Bai Phule. So they insisted as the importance of the education to all the Indian women a long back ago. So my sincere appeal to everyone that being a Andhra University student and a professor in the Department of Meteorology and Oceanography, it's my privilege to talk about the women empowerment and equity and opportunity. And being a 97-year-old university, it is very important to encompass the related to the what the procedures we are taking in the university and to provide the decision making policies, research, and everything how the woman is involved in the different administrative and as well as the research oriented activities. For example, if you consider the executive council members, there are more number of the women are in the decision making, and the chairpersons and the PG board of studies, heads of the department, principals, assistant principals, there are all almost 68% of the women are promoting in the field of sciences as well as in the arts. And coming to the student enrollment, this is the first important one we should keep in mind that higher education percentage is increased in the recent decades from 35 to 42%, especially the field of meteorology and oceanography. But the issue is they are not coming to this higher education area because women, you know, that they have a social boundaries and, you know, marriages and everything, they are coming to the, you know, into the play. So that's why they are not continuing that for the further studies. But we need to encourage them to provide such a free ships and scholarships and, you know, DST Inspire fellowships and women scientist programs, and a lot of awareness is required in the field of meteorology and oceanography. And the second point I would like to mention that there are so many, you know, the major challenge what we are facing right now, the Mother Earth, and, you know, to survive in the anthropogenic phase, we need a collective effort. So especially the rural women need, you know, they are more vulnerable to the effects of the global climate change, and they are highly depends on the local natural resources. For example, they need to cook, they need to save the water, they need to secure the fuel for cooking and, you know, heating, and I mean, they are facing lot of challenges, and they have a social barriers because they are limiting only a particular area. So, and we need to cross the boundaries to, you know, to involve more accountability in terms of the resources and decision making processes. That's why a lot of awareness programs in the rural background, it is very much required, and we need to provide a gender sensitive strategies, especially to how to respond the environmental and humanitarian crisis. And everyone is used to say that it is a leadership positions women has to involve, and at the national level, local level, community level, we need a basic visible difference. We need to make a visible difference, especially in the natural disaster responses and, you know, emergency evacuation stage. At that time, they are doing very good job, especially the bureaucrats. They are doing a very wonderful job, but until unless, you know, it's all uh, because uh, hello. So let me share the beautiful sloka in Bhagavad Gita. Yatra narayastu pujyante dramante tatra devata. So thank you one and all for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Professor Sunita, for highlighting the fellowships, especially which has not been talked about since morning, that are available to women, and we should definitely try to avail them more. And also the rural women, whose empowerment is also something we should definitely discuss and talk about. So moving on with the discussion, next I invite Professor Zameen Kanji, who has joined us online from ETH Zurich. Professor Kanji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. So thank you for having me here as well. I'm not sure I'm as qualified as all the other panelists here to speak on experiences, but I'll talk about just a couple more things because a lot has already been said. And we've talked a lot about gender equality and recruiting and encouraging women to enter science. But in my experience over the last 15 years of my career, I think what I've seen, at least from the West, of course, this is the cultural norms are different in the East and the West. But one thing, there's a lot of focus on recruiting women into meteorological sciences or atmospheric sciences. Or environmental chemistry, which are the departments I've been associated with. But then what happens is that a lot of the times the effort stops there. Once the women have been recruited, then they're left to their own support systems. And I think there's not enough institutional support systems to ensure that the women are then successful in their careers once they have entered these areas. So the efforts largely stop at recruitment. And these support systems not only include like facilities like daycare, if women are the primary caregivers for their families, but also mentoring and navigating a space that is largely dominated by men. And in Europe, we would also say largely dominated by white men. And so I think this is one of the things that institutionally I think we can definitely try and focus on, is supporting not only the entrance and recruiting of women, but also facilitating support systems once women have entered the sciences in order to have retainment of women. And so I think one of our colleagues talked about retainment, or retention rather, of women in the field. And then the other thing I find a lot is talking to people across different continents and cultural, is that this issue is not only institutional, but it's also a cultural issue, whether women can enter sciences and careers. And this, of course, changes depending on the location. And so I think we have a role not only as part of an institute, but also in our personal lives or societally to encourage women or diverse people to recognize that they are able to have a career in science. So I think it becomes sort of a twofold issue where we need to work institutionally, but also work societally or culturally to encourage gender equality or diverse balances in recruitment, and empowering people and women to say that yes, you can in fact have a career in sciences or anything they choose. So I think that's basically my observation of, I think, what I can add to this conversation. That's already very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Zamin Kaji. I would now like to invite Dr. Swapna Anikar to share her views.
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm really honored to speak few words on the opportunities of women in science. As an example, like I'm sitting here as one of the panelists, it shows that we have equal opportunities for both men and women in science, especially here in IIT. There are examples like women are leading the program, like Dr. Tara. She's leading a program here, and she's also conducting difficult aircraft campaigns. So there are opportunities for men and women equally, but how do we take up the opportunities and how do we progress? That matters. And I strongly feel that women empowerment can be done through education. We need to educate both boys and girls. There is a need to give higher education to equally to the boys and girls. That is one way like we can, I think they can advance the life and also in the career. And regarding climate change, we know like climate change is affecting every region of the world, and also all the communities are getting affected. And most of the vulnerable causes of the climate change is also again to the vulnerable communities, like the women and children are mostly affected. So there is also a need like these risks of climate change also have to be communicated to the communities so that we can make both. I think we have to educate like what is climate going to change and what are its impacts. That has to be communicated to the women and children. So that is the way like we can build up a resilient climate society. And I also would like to add that I am honored or privileged to be part of a woman in entering in the IPCC assessment report. And like we have already, Dr. Surya has already told you, previously like contribution of women in science was less, but it has shown a gradual increase in the recent years from 3% for the first IPCC report, and we have got more than 30% contribution from women in science. So that there are growing opportunities for women in science. So my sincere advice to the young students are that they should come up and they should take up in climate science, and they should take more career progression, and that is one way they can succeed in life. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Swapna. Indeed, Dr. Swapna is already very inspiring. She is one of our leading scientists in IITM, and we are definitely very proud of her and of her work. So thank you for your views. So next, moving on, we have Dr. Ashwini Kulkarni, who is a senior retired scientist from IITM. Ma'am, could you please share your views?
Yeah, thank you. I will read out some of the things which I have came to my mind. Well, I will talk about Indian perspective, why this problem of gender equality arises, and it is more serious in India as compared to the remaining world. So I'm not talking about in general, I will talk about Indian perspective. So wherever we live in India, girls and boys see gender inequality in their homes, communities, every day. In textbooks, in movies, in media, among the men and women who provide their care and support. India is the only large country where more girls die than boys. Girls are also more likely to drop out of school. In India, girls and boys experience adolescence differently. While boys tend to experience greater freedom, girls tend to face extensive limitations on their ability to move freely and to make decisions affecting their work, education, marriage, and social relationships. As girls and boys age, the gender barrier continue to expand and continue into adulthood, where we see only a quarter of women in the formal workplace. So, in India, women have to take care of their family, children, school activities, elderly people in house, occasional sickness of family members, all religious rituals, cultural activities, and so many other. Women face additional challenges: workplace sexual harassment, work-related stress, work-life imbalance. Today, women scientists continue to face unequal access to resources and opportunity and are underrepresented in their fields, including climate science. Also, science and further research needs focused, concerted, continuous efforts, dedication. It's a 24-hour engagement, I understand, which girls may not be able to do due to their family responsibility. Now, we people who are sitting here are very lucky that we are born in the economically sound families and where there was no gender discrimination. So we are here. But when there is no enough money to educate all the children, it's always girls who suffer. Science education is more expensive as compared to other streams. Also, there is dowry system at many places in India. Parents think, why should we spend money on her education if it's not going to uplift my family? Most important issue is, what are the avenues to bring more girls in science and how can we change this picture? Empowering girls requires focused investment and collaboration. Providing girls with the services and safety, education and skills they need in daily life can reduce the risks they face and enable them to fully develop and contribute to India's growth. For this, we need continuous, unconditional support from our family and spouse. So, if I am married and have children, nowadays it may happen. In my days, it could not happen. Can I go on a cruise for taking ocean observations for 4 months or so? Can I go to Antarctica? Can I go as a visiting scientist for a year or two to abroad? Some few women may be fortunate, they may be able to do this, but it's very rare in Indian families. Okay, you people may agree with me. Can my male colleague go to Sawali nahi hota? Okay, that's not a question at all. Unless we clear these cultural blocks, unless we change the mentality of men and other family members, is highly impossible. Family members should support the girls and daughter-in-laws as they support their own sons. Not that women have less brains or they are less serious or sincere, or not that they don't have leadership qualities. They will also be able to top in STEM if given proper support. जितना हस्बैंड को सपोर्ट करना इंडियन फैमिलीज में ऑब्वियस है, उतना ही वाइफ्स को सपोर्ट ना करना. Okay, so I will remove this. Okay, women and girls should always feel that becoming a scientist is possible. In fact, that whatever they would like to do is possible. Women and girls should never feel that particular fields of work or study are off the limits to them. I am of the view that women advocating for women is powerful and is essential for all disciplines, especially those that remain male-dominated. One advice I would like to give to all of you: those who are not married yet, please marry a person in research, so that he will understand your dedication, your deadlines, hurdles you have to cross, your commitment towards your work. Then only you will sustain in research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kulkarni, for sharing the Indian perspective regarding gender inequality.
just quickly before that, we have Dr. Milind Majumdar with us. He's also one of the panelists. Sir, could you please come up on the stage and join the other panelists? Thank you so much.
I would now like to invite Dr. Aksha, who has joined here in person from CDSE Pune.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara, for this very nice concept, and I'm very happy to see Surya, Shilani, Foxy, and Mirinda around me. And that's really a change, because generally we have all women talking about women. That's all. आप अच्छे हो, आप बड़े हो, आप बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हो. What I would like to highlight here is it's very good that we are talking about other people also saying, and not only good things, what we should be doing also. So thank you for that. And a very important thing, disclaimer or a mistake from my side. I can see Sumita and Dipti from my group coming over here. When the program came, I sent a mail to my group, and I have almost equal girls and maybe boys. And I made a mistake. I sent only to Sumita and Dipti and all those girls, saying that please come for this program. I should have sent it to the boys rather than these girls. So I'm very sorry for this, and we all should now, take that into consideration and improve ourselves, because we ourselves shouldn't be, hurdle in our own development. That was one thing. So coming back to maybe, I think I have 5 minutes, so I'll cover it. So what do you mean by a successful woman? Why should we say a successful woman? Why not a successful person? Because when we say a successful, woman, we will always see either he or she is a director of an institute or a vice president. We'll never say she's a good human being. And when I say good human being is she works, she's a scientist, she's a technology person. At the same time, she's nurtured a family, she has kids or whatever. She's looked after parents and she's cooking. So these are the extra thing which we do that should be also our signature, and that should be considered. Not only the professional positions are supposed to be indicators of our success. So that's my first thing which I wanted to say. Another thing, I'll come back to a mix of what professionally we should do and what personally we should do. So opportunities now, if we are looking at women in science and more women in weather and climate, it's no more now a specific field where only atmospheric scientists or ocean scientists should be in picture. It's more of an interdisciplinary. So we have now all the disciplines coming together, and we should take advantage of it in terms of linking with them, collaborating with them, and looking at interdisciplinary projects which we can do, or interdisciplinary work which we can do. That comes down to when we are talking about by women for women. For example, health, climate and health impact, climate and socio-economic impact. So that's where we should see that how it is affecting. I was talking with Sambika ma'am. Okay, but by the way, I started my career, my first research project jointly with IITM was with, and I think that's the best way we can say that we had a diversity right 30 years back. We were working together on that. So she was just mentioning the exposure which she had recently about the dust pollution. So she experienced, because she's a scientist, she is able to tell it, she is able to reason it out. But there must be so many people in the same place who must be staying and experiencing it, and many women must be suffering from that. So we can look into it. It's an opportunity for us, because technology is. Okay, I'll talk more about the technology side, because technology will be now allowing us and facilitating into looking at different aspects of looking at the impacts on women also, as well as causes also. That comes from the science side of it. So interdisciplinary, looking at talking to different people, reaching out to different discipline people. For example, if we are talking of technology, we can say we are into supercomputing, somebody is working in data sciences, somebody is working in machine learning. How much are we putting effort? Are we looking? Are we googling and finding out how many of them are working on AI/ML and maybe climate and sustainability? Let me reach out. Let me call her, or see that what we can do together. So I think we have an opportunity to work together, and we can define projects also along that line. And if not, we can always say the funding agency to define this type of projects where people can contribute in terms of that. And coming back to a collaborative thing, that's another thing which we miss out. Maybe disclaimer, from my experience, we will not immediately. I had a privilege of working with. I think Chandra is around. We had a great partnership and we worked together. As I said, with Savika ma'am, similarly, almost 15, 20 years back, we worked with Chandra for a long time, and that was very, very good partnership. We could, I learned a lot of things from her. So we should have projects where we can do a mentoring which is on the job, not just giving lectures or something like that. Growing up together and learning together. So that's one thing which we can do. And for that, I feel coming back to my thing where we are working is data. We all of us are we need data of different type for any research or any technology development. So we all of you should collaborate with each other in terms of data sharing, finding it out, reaching it out, saying that can you give it, and even coming to IITM back, we are just neighbors. But how many of us just come down and we say, okay, I want aerosol data, I want air quality data, let's look at it. And I think that can help us to grow faster. And another thing, when we are looking at what's happening is many times, don't get me wrong, we start cribbing about the woman very fast sometimes. So I think we should, I'm not saying it's sometimes it happens, maybe different reasons, for maybe that day we are not feeling well, we are having a PMS or something like that, that's not an issue. But what happens is we should look into more of the approach should be collaboration and not confrontation. That helps, and that helped me. It's okay sometimes if someone says to us, for some time we'll crib, but let's not carry that, because collaboration approach, if we keep it, it will help us a lot. That was one. And I feel currently we are in the best position in terms of weather, climate, sustainability. It's a buzzword, right from Prime Minister to everyone is talking, industry is talking. So let's work together. It's a great opportunity to do a good, significant work and show our presence in currently. Now, coming back to what I want to say is that let's come out of comfort zone. And I have a long dream, which say that if you remember around 10 years back, there was Air India's all-women crew. They flew from Bangalore to San Francisco. Right from the ground operators to the aerostesses are always there, but the pilot, all the even the radar staff, all those people, and even the other side, San Francisco side, everyone was all women. So let's have an all-women crew project, and I think we should tell this to MOES, and it's all for by women, for women, and for the mankind. It need not be just for women when we say it. So it includes everything. We all have people working, or we have ocean scientists, we have weather scientists, we have data scientists, we have even aerosol people. So let's look at all aspects. Health doctors are there. So let's work together and see if we can have this type of a program. Now coming on the personal thing, I would not like to, I have a big lecture. If anyone is interested, we can have a session. I do a lot of this mentoring because I feel it's my duty to do this, because our experience sharing is very, very important. And experience sharing doesn't come only saying that how good I am or how great I am. What mistakes I made also, and how I overcame that. I'll tell you one thing. What happens is when we try to put few things as a woman, it's always, it comes as aggressive. If I'm putting it loudly or I'm fighting with somebody. But same thing may not happen many times with men, because that is treated, he's assertive or he's making a point. He's very clear. So let's try to be, not appear as aggressive, but we can be always assertive. We can still make our point, and then what happens while making this point, we start crying. That crying is not because we are weak. We feel so strong about it. So it's okay sometimes to cry, but not to manipulate the situation. And this crying, I'll give you an example in my presentation also. I have about 2 years back, this Supreme Court Chief Justice, he was retiring. and I saw a photograph in Times of India. He was crying, and because he felt so dejected that there were very less judges, and so to make his point, he started crying. So it's always then I realized that sometimes we can't express, so we cry. It is not because it's our weakness. So don't worry on that, but don't use it as a weapon. That's the important thing. And coming back to the home front, I have a lot of things. I can take some other time. I will not take other people's time on that. But we should first and foremost is all of us in India, at least we have maid servants. They are also working women. We need to take care of them. So I do small things. We all get here medical. I take care of all the medical expenses of them because they are employed with us. That is one thing. We have annual days. We go for functions. All these cultural programs. Where do they have? So every year I take in December. I'll take them to one very good restaurant or a hotel. So I started with Pizza Hut and McDonald's, and now I have moved to Marriott also. So they have to have that experience because they are for us. And we are for them. We have to give that confidence to them also that we take care of them. That is one thing. Other thing is we are very lucky. Actually, we are not bad in India. Now, we lot of support system, which many of the Western countries we don't have. So we can do much better professionally. We have in-laws, we have parents coming in. And it's good. Again, the principle is collaboration with them and not confrontation. If someone says something of in-laws, it's okay. Next thing, it's okay. We can go to the next thing. I have many things to say, but I think I'll stop over here. So let's see. Who all are ready to be in my crew? All are welcome. And also, we'd like to mentor. Just yesterday, we are having a big project on urban environmental science as an integrated program. So we have said that now let's have a seed funding for young women researchers who would like to be part of it. And I can see Rohini and Sumita. I think I pestered them. I said you better do a project together and not just stop there. You have to go on. You have to do a few more projects here. So all of you, we look forward, and I look forward all the boys over here who can say also that we would like to have a project with women coming up, and I want to take it to see that it is useful. So let's see. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay Madam. I would now like to invite Dr. Aditi Deshpande from Pune University to share her views.
Am I audible? Thank you. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me. I'm slightly inexperienced compared to everyone else sitting over here, I think. What has come across to me throughout the discussion from all panelists and even the speakers that came before me is that the two ways that seem to be two ways that we can address the opportunities for women is one on a structural level and one is on a personal level. And on a structural level, I think everyone has mentioned, those who are more experienced than me, they have mentioned that we need diversity in executive panels, we need women in places of power, we need women in decision-making places, which is true. I think I would like to say a few words on where we can work in terms of a personal level. And I think from my experience, I would say deconditioning of what we are taught by patriarchal structures is very much important for both men and women. And to go one step further, I would like to say that yes, a lot of speakers before us have also pointed out how prejudices and unconscious biases work on a very layered, in a very layered manner. So you have people or human beings who get prejudiced on the basis of their gender. And I don't just mean women, I'm talking about gender non-conforming, gender fluid human beings who come from different stratas of caste, race, religion, class as well. And So this is not a problem, or this is not a process which is linear. It's a very layered process. And so I believe that the onus of deconditioning ourselves lies with the ones who are in a place of privilege. I think by and large, the most resounding message has been that women are expected to balance work and family life. And I think I remember this quote where I read, which said that women are expected to do their jobs as if they don't have kids at home, and they're expected to raise their kids who don't, as if they don't have a job. Which is a fact. I've seen my women colleagues struggle day in and day out trying to manage all of that. From a lived experience, I will also say that women like me who choose to not go down that road of marriage and kids are also seen in a negative light because we do not fit the patriarchal structure. Women who are assertive, women who choose to walk out of marriages or who choose to not raise children are also not seen because we do not fit stereotypes. So this breaking down of stereotypes forms a very strong basis of deconditioning. And in that manner, I think we also need to decondition ourselves to look at gender as a binary where we are only talking about men and women, and move away from a bioessentialist definition of who is a man and what a man should do, and who is a woman and what a woman should do. And also include gender fluid, non-conforming genders, and human beings who come from different marginalized genders, marginalized communities as well. And in the end, I would like to say that whether it is in STEM or whether it is in any science or any working field, I think practicing solidarity and empathy is one of the most important factors that can help create more opportunities for women and other marginalized genders. So what does one mean by practicing solidarity? It is to recognize that we cannot have absolute equality. There has to be practices of equity wherein we recognize that due to a patriarchal structure, there are more expectations from certain genders, or certain genders are sort of forced with certain stereotypes. I've enjoyed the entire day. I hope to see a workshop where we have more than just two genders on the panel and speaking, and also people from different sexualities, because people from LGBTQI community are also form a part of marginalized communities. So, and of course, human beings from different caste, class, socioeconomic backgrounds. I think that would make for a stronger diversity, and it will naturally help us work towards equity. That's about it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aditi. That was really insightful, talking about, like, correctly pointing out the binary gender structure of our society, which is indeed very true, and we need a more inclusive environment and more empathy. That's a key word that we should have here. So moving on. Moving on, we have our next panelist in person here, Dr. Oxy Matthew Cole, who is a senior scientist from IITM. Dr. Oxy.
Thanks, Shastri. So we had a lot of discussions, a lot of comments, beautiful comments, important comments. I hope somebody is taking notes. This can be put together as recommendations for the path forward for women in science. It shouldn't be a loose end where we forget it tomorrow and go forward. Yeah. So wonderful day with great participation, a lot of women as speakers and panelists. Now, can we expect this at a normal conference setup here? Yeah. I don't think so. I haven't seen that, unfortunately. So, sorry, I'm not building a very rosy picture, but I'm putting some tangible or actionable recommendations here, yeah, based on my comment. So, to make that change, we need a very conscious effort. So somebody talked about unconscious bias and all. So to overcome that, we need a conscious effort. And how does that happen? we need to take note. So when you are in the next conference or meeting like this, take a look at your stage. The people there are all of them men. The keynote speakers are all of them men. Are there at least half or 1/4 women there? It's not that we don't have women researchers here. We see a lot of excellent scientists. We saw it today itself. Yeah. But at the same time, I see this what I see, I think you see the same. Many times we see women assisting for giving flower bouquets, singing, dancing. Yeah, I see that. No, you. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, okay. I thought you were disagreeing. Yeah. Okay. Now, to change that, we need probably some policies or targets. We need it because we need conscious effort. Because if we talk like this and tomorrow we'll forget we have the next conference, it will be the same thing. Yeah. So we need a policy or target. For example, maybe 50% is too much, but at least 25%. 1/4 of the keynote speakers, 1/4 of the the speakers and panelists should be at least women in a normal conference setup, not a women scientists conference, but a normal conference setup. We have that many women researchers here. And that is important for clearing that gap also. So we talked about women coming into science. A lot of women are coming into science. Dr. Shilan said more than 9 or some PhD students that he had were women. I see a lot of women, master students, PhD students coming in. Actually, they are more than men, actually, many times. Yeah. But we don't see them as decision makers. So we need to create that opportunity by having targets or policies that, okay, every meeting or every committee or anything like that you have, association that you have, you will have at least 1/4, or maximum at least the best target in the future can be 50% will be women scientists. Yeah? And that is possible, and that's what I've learned by working in IPCC and those kind of panels, international panels. So internationally in IPCC, we are having 33%. Yeah. But nationally, and that is because they have that policy. They have a task team just to assure that. So we cannot just dream and think, okay, it will work out for us. If we need that, we need to set that policy or target for us. Yeah. And if we can, I would say in India, this has been worked out to some extent, I would say. In IAC, they started working on working against these manners. So panels with men are called manners. Only men are called manners. Yeah. So they had a conscious effort on totally taking out manners and supporting panels with both men and women. And it's possible. Like somebody else said, if you have women or if you have a diverse team, the possibilities are huge. Because you get new ideas, innovative ideas, you can solve problems in a different way, in a better way, and also you are an inspiration to other women as well. So if you can do at this institution, this can be an example for all other institutions across country. We can set a best practice. It's a very possible. Yeah. And thank you very much. And I have tried this in my group as well. At some point, there were a lot of male research students in my group. But now my group is filled with female research students. I wish for some male students as well. Anyway, it's quite possible. It's possible in this institution as well as any institutions in India or in this region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roxy. Those were some insightful suggestions. Maybe we can discuss them more during the audience interaction. I would now like to invite Dr. Monica Agrawal, who is a scientist from SCRP New Delhi, who will be sharing her views online. Ma'am, you're not audible yet.
Hello?
Yes,
Can you
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So good afternoon, all the distinguished panelists and the participants. First of all, I thank you, Dr. Thara, for inviting me. And it's a great pleasure for me to be part of this panel discussion. And by education, I am not a climate change expert, but definitely I am involved in women empowerment in R&D funding schemes of SERB. And so I can brief you some, programs where we are funding exclusively women in R&D. And since SERB is a premier funding, I think all of you must be aware of that. That SERB is a premier funding agency of India. And in various schemes and programs, we are supporting Indian scientists, Indian research across the country. And plus that women scientists, and we are since beginning we are supporting researchers in India in various programs and schemes. But we were feeling that low participation of women in Indian R&D funding schemes, and moreover low rate of success in of women in getting projects. So therefore, to enhance the participation of women and to empower the women scientists in research development, SERB started exclusive program Power in 2020. So I would like to share some slides. Please allow me to share my slides.
Yes, ma'am, you can share your slides now.
Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Share screen is there.
You have shared your screen. We are not able to see the slides yet.
Just a minute.
Yeah. She shared, but
Ma'am, could you please pull up your PowerPoint presentation? It's minimized.
yes.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. We have started this Power program in 2020, and it's a structured effort towards enhanced diversity in research to ensure equal access and weighted opportunity to women researchers. And we are hoping that by providing or by creating such a kind of opportunities, we would be able to increase the participation of women in STEM. So here in Power program, we are supporting women scientists under 4 verticals. One is SERB Power Grant, and second is Power Fellowship, and third one, which we have introduced recently in 2022, SERB Power Mobility, and fourth one is SERB Power Translation. So this SERB Power Grant, so this is a project mode grant, and it's a competitive individual-centric grant where we are providing support research grant to women scientists exclusively in any field of science and engineering. So what we were feeling that women scientists from less endowed institutions like private institutions or deemed to be universities where infrastructure is not well developed, so they have to compete with the women scientists who are working in level 1 public funded institutions where infrastructure is well established. So here we have made 2 levels. One is level 1 and second is level 2. So level 1 is for funding for women scientists who are working in the public funded institutions like NITs, IITs, IISers, and IIScs and central universities. So here these women, they are eligible for 60 lakhs. And the level 2 women who are working in private institutions or deemed to be universities, they are eligible for 30 lakhs. So they have the level 2 institution women, they need not to compete with level 1 institution women. So these Power program, we are regulated through SERB CRG guidelines. CRG is our core research grant. And so far we have completed 2 calls. One we have launched in 2020 and 2021, 2022. And the third call we have announced in 22 September, and that proposals are under consideration. So SERB Power Fellowship, that is a different program under Power program, and this is basically a recognition for those women scientists who are publishing well, or who have generated IP, or who have developed technology, and who are doing excellent in their research. So this is basically identification and reward to excellent women researchers in Indian academic institutions and R&D laboratories. So the age limit of women, to those we are recognizing between 35 to 55 years of age. And we accept nomination throughout the year. And nominee should be an active scientist. And here we are providing 15,000 per month fellowship, along with 10 lakhs per year research grant for 3 years. It's a one-time grant. And recently we have introduced SERB Power Mobility Grant. That is for actually idea behind this Power Mobility Grant is to send those women who did not get any exposure outside India. So they can go in outside India, they can get exposure, and they can bring some international exposure back to India. So this is basically for those women who are power beneficiary, and it's a one-time grant, and age limit is 57 years. So here we are giving them per diem, accommodation, that airfare and contingency and related travel costs. So the duration of this grant is 1 to 3 months. So they can choose their own institution outside India. We are not forcing them. We are not guiding them that which institution they should go. They can choose their own institution. And the fourth grant which we are giving to women scientists is SERB Power Translation Grant. And this grant is basically for those women who have generated IP from SERB supported project and wish to convert IP into the technology. And this is a very excellent grant for those women who want to become entrepreneur, or start their own startup. So this here, the condition is that they should develop IP from SERB supported project within last 3 years, and their PI should identify incubators or industry. So here we are giving 15 lakhs per year unstructured support. They can use for making prototype. They can use for that conversion of IP into the technology according to their convenience for 2 years. So I would like to share some data of Power Grant. So we have launched Power Grant in 2020, and within 2 months we have received 2,913 projects, and out of which we have supported 99 projects. So we have received projects from Andaman and Nicobar. So you can imagine that how popular this program is among the women researchers in India. And in 21-22 we have received 2,692, and we have supported 2,243 proposals. And in Power Fellowship we have received 100 nominations, and out of which we have supported 25 Power Fellows. And in 21-22 we have received 137 nominations, and out of which we have supported 25 nominations for Power Fellowship. So in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, in 2 calls we have received 130 proposals, out of which we have supported 30 women scientists. We understand that this need to be matter of concern, that we need to increase the number of women scientists in Earth Atmospheric Sciences. So the salient feature of Power scheme that we have organized for women conclave for hand-holding of women researchers from tier 2, and to encourage women researchers from tier 1 for entrepreneurship. So we have organized one conclave at IIT Gandhinagar, where we have invited women researchers or women leaders from industry to sensitize our women who are working in academics, so that they can think for technology development, or for start their own startups, or to become entrepreneur. So we are working towards women equality, or to be women for women empowerment, and we are committed towards strengthening of women in R&D ecosystem. I request all the participants to visit SERB website and participate in SERB program. Please do connect with us. And with these words, I thank you, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Monica Agarwal, for sharing such opportunities with us. I would now like to invite Professor Andrea Foster from University Clermont Iverson in Clermont, France.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I think it must be getting late in your corner. Well, the problem of talking after so many people, a lot of the points I wanted to make have already been addressed in one way or another. So maybe the thing that I can share is my personal experience. Because I have been asked, well, how did you do? How did you get to where you are? And I mean, from your corner, people say also, yeah, maybe it's a lot easier in Europe. Well, in fact, when I started, it was not, it was worse, I guess. And it's when listening to you, it is actually. Because when I started 40 years ago, my studies in physics, there were very few women in my colleagues, and it went even in such a way that when I was doing my lab courses, one of my male professors told me, "Oh, what are you doing here? Women should be," and now I quote, "barefoot and pregnant." I said, "Okay, what am I doing here?" But I wanted to do that. I was passionate. Didn't want to be discouraged, but also when you start out as a student, your universe is very confined. You see your university, you see the colleagues, but you see a very few of what is possible. And so, for my personal view, a lot of things changed for me during my PhD. And there I was really blessed to have a wonderful advisor, the late Hans Trupacher. But I think it's in general for PhD advisors. They are the ones that show you what is possible. Not only from the subject point of view, but also they open your vision towards the international, so sending you to conferences, showing you the ropes, how you get finances, how the world works. And so this part for me was essential. And I noted that there are women that are not as don't have so much chance than myself to have really this wonderful advisor. And so I want to stress, it was mentioned before, to have some kind of mentoring system, because in one moment in your career, you need a person that opens the window, opens the door for you. It will be very difficult to do it on your own. And I guess this is general, this is for male as for female students, but the vision is still a little restricted, and the opening happens more for male than for female students, even though it's getting better. So this is one essential point I want to stress, this mentoring person that you need at one time in your career. And the second point, I guess, is your personal environment. And I mean, don't want to go as far as somebody said, you only marry people that are in your field. But it certainly helps to have a supportive husband and to be in a situation. I mean, I started out in Germany, I moved to France later, and already the situation in Germany and France is very different with respect to childcare. So there I was very lucky to get to a point where the systems is a lot more supportive to female that work and have a career. So to be supported also in your personal environment is very important. So I guess this was my well, some grains of salt for that. And thank you for having me.
Dr. Margaret, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Hi. Well, Professor Fassman took my starting lines because we are talking at the end of a very long line of amazing points and talks. So my name is Lihi. I'm from the Weizmann Institute in Israel. I really want to thank, I'm really honored to be here. I want to thank Tara for the invitation. So what I can also do is I can share what is happening here and from my personal experience. So I'm currently working in a dynamical meteorology group that is mostly women with a women PI, and it's a very nice environment, also with people that I truly admire and care about. But I think that I can sense on how this environment is so different than what I used to have. I had a very supportive, PI in my PhD, and everything was fine, but the department itself did not have. I was the only student for many years, female student for many years, and it does kind of. It has its impression. So although nothing was nothing was said to me or anything like that, but it does have an influence. And I think that these kind of gatherings and these kinds of conferences can really help support women that do feel alone sometime or do feel, that they're by themselves in this situation. And I think that this is the most important thing that you can do. And it was mentioned before that this support of women that are in the field, either in climate science or in science in general, which is not very female oriented all the time. I think that this is one of the main objectives that should come out of such meetings and such important things. I think that I know that for me, support that I got along the way from groups like these in Israel really helped me, stay in my path and the path that I wanted. And I think that if more women that stayed, you will end up with a critical mass of women, and then eventually it won't look, you don't have to push it so much if it's there. And I think that that's what we should aspire to here in Israel, which is not the situation at all. And I think that in many places it's not there yet, but it's on their way. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lihi Margaret. I would now like to invite Professor Shamita Kumar to share her views.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody. And thank you, Tara, for inviting me to speak at this very, very interesting one-day conference that I'm really privileged to speak at. I would like to, begin by talking about, how did women really enter the workforce? So World War II was a catalyst, which brought women into the workforce, given that a lot of men, were out there at war, and this enabled women were admitted into the stereotypical office roles. And if the organizers permit, I just have one slide which at this juncture I would like to share. May I?
Yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
Can you see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Right. And this is where we've come. I mean, I don't know how many in the audience, really can relate to this picture. This was the photo that was flashed all across the newspapers in the world when India successfully launched the Chandrayaan-2. And if you recall, this is a picture of sari-clad women with hairs in their, with flowers in their hair, breaking the stereotype typically of what highly expert professional scientists, look like. I would like to stop sharing at this moment. So that is the journey that we have traversed, an all woman team that actually launched satellites to the moon, starting from World War II. And in spite of all the statistics that were presented by Dr. Kulkarni, which really mirror reality, we also have another reality that in India, as compared to the rest of the world, we do have 43% of women with a STEM education. But the part that we need to work on is only 14% of this women are actually in STEM related fields, which means we have a leaky pipeline. And how do you really plug this leaky pipeline? Several of the speakers before me, have actually spoken about this, but I just have a few points from my personal experience that could form the way forward. So the first one is, actually opening the pathways and dismantling the biases that are inherent from when the child enters the school system. How? I was part of a project that analyzed school textbooks across India, 1800 textbooks, because we were looking at incorporating environmental education into school textbooks arising from a Supreme Court judgment. When we analyzed this textbook, one of our parameters was to look at gender biases. And having done this, for 1800 textbooks, the pictures and images that stayed in my mind were irrespective of the state the textbook came from. You had these visuals of the father and the son sitting in front of the television, and the mother and the daughter, working in the kitchen. You had pictures of scientists, engineers, and doctors who were male, and teachers and nurses who were females, right across the country in every single subject that you looked at. We argued, we debated, we discussed this issue very strongly with all state governments to say that this is where gender biases need to be removed. Now, this is where we need to bring in a positive perception so that young girls begin to see themselves differently from the stereotypes that are actually presented, within school textbooks. Girls have fewer role models. Studying in school, I think the only scientist, if I recall, that was ever mentioned in my textbook was Marie Curie. This has, of course, changed over time. I mean, we've had Dr. Kalpana Chawla and Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw and a lot of local women, today reflected in textbooks. And I think this is important. Why textbooks? Textbooks in India are the sole resource that actually reach to the furthermost part of the country where no other reading material is available. So, most wilderness parts of the country, it's a textbook that reaches. So it's very important, to get this into the books because it creates this, image in the mind, which is very, very essential. The second thing would be, having these role models, blogging about them, talking about them, inviting them to schools, and seeing that there are professions in the STEM field that women can work with. So I think this across institutions is a very important aspect. Doing away with preconceived notions, and this happens in interviews across the board, that women choose family over career, and we have ample examples here of previous speakers, who allude to that. But this needs to change, and this needs to change with gender sensitization. So this means that as women, what is our role here? Am I training my son, my student, to be gender sensitive? Am I giving him the same responsibilities as my daughter? Now, am I treating the students on par in my classroom? I think this is something that it starts with sensitizing them, which means institutionalizing gender sensitization. It's not a one-off thing, it's institutionalizing it, across the board. So that's important. The next part would be mentoring and providing networking opportunities for women. I think mentoring is extremely crucial. So I think we had a speaker from IIT who really spoke about, how she loses top-end PhD students, and a survey which was done by the All India higher education body, it spoke about just 3% of women being enrolled in PhD in science and about 6% in engineering and technology. But the question is, as a report by Niti Aayog indicates, that very few of these women end up in leadership roles in the professional organizations. So one of the metrics that could be added into evaluation of all organizations is what is the percentage of women who are in leadership roles within those organizations, because that puts an emphasis on the organization to have the policies that foster, such kind of progression. So networking, there was a model in Europe which worked very successfully, which I saw, which I had the opportunity to see close hand, is PhD students were paired up with very successful women from the STEM field, on a very formal basis, supported with the grant. And this allowed the PhD student to discuss with their mentor that came from completely different organizations as to how she actually reached the pinnacle in her career. I think these kind of structured mentoring programs, so we all speak of mentoring, we all do the mentoring, but structured mentoring and structured networking programs, are extremely crucial if we really have to move beyond what we are today. And the last point that I would like to make here, I mean, it's a long day, is the institutional support mechanisms. So in terms of policy, we do have a lot from the government of India. If just those policies would be implemented in the spirit in which they were, formulated, I think we would really reach a long way. Support in terms of infrastructure, another speaker already mentioned this in terms of having childcare facilities, in being a little more flexible in terms of time, but also using what we call as a rainbow framework for evaluation, which does not look at just the number of years that you have put in, but what is the output that you bring to the organization. So things like that, can really help in taking this forward. And I really hope that we don't have to wait another 100 years, before this can materialize and happen, and you will have another catalyst. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shavita. I think maybe our next event could be regarding guiding young females who are pursuing their career or who wish to pursue their career in academia and research. I would now like to invite Dr. Milind Majumdar to share his views.
नमस्कार जी, आप सभी को मेरा हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। मैं हिंदी में बोलना चाहूँगा। जहाँ तक मेरा ख्याल है, बहुत अच्छी आज बातें सुनी हमने, सभी के अभिप्राय देखे हमने आज सुबह से, और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात मैं कहना चाहूँगा जो मैंने आज ग्रहण की है कि माँ से बढ़कर भी मातृत्व है, और उस मातृत्व जब जागृत होगा तो निश्चित रूप से हमने कई उदाहरण देखे हैं कि वो सफलता के उच्चतम शिखर तक पहुँच सकता है। तो ये जेंडर बायस से भी बढ़कर कर जो है, और हमें ये देखा भी, इतिहास में भी हमने देखा है कि संत ज्ञानेश्वर को भी माउली कहा गया क्योंकि उन्होंने वो मातृत्व का अंगीकार किया और उसका प्रचार किया उन्होंने। फिर उसके बाद में समता भी लाए, वारकरी संप्रदाय, एनीवे मैं उसमें नहीं जाना चाहूंगा, लेकिन यहाँ पे मेरा जहाँ तक मेरा ख्याल है कि मातृत्व जो है यही सबसे बड़ा भाव है, सब में होना चाहिए, ये स्त्री या पुरुष से बढ़कर के भी अगर ये भाव होगा तो इससे निश्चित रूप से ये जो क्लाइमेट एंड वेदर एंड क्लाइमेट साइंस, इसकी तो प्रगति होगी ही होगी। तो इसमें हमने ये भी देखा है इसी के साथ में कि साइंटिस्ट के साथ में कई हमारे साथी हैं, हमारे जो साथी हैं जिनमें ये भाव प्रकट हुआ, और उन्होंने पूरे इस संस्थान को, इस सारे विषय को बढ़ाने में भी उससे काफी उन्होंने मदद की है। मैं नाम लेना चाहूंगा, जैसे खरबंदा जी हैं, सुनीता खरबंदा जी हैं, उन्होंने काफी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में भी रही, इसमें मेडिकल अकाउंट्स में भी रही। अकाउंट्स में मातृत्व का अभाव होना बहुत कठिन है, लेकिन वहां पर रहते हुए भी उन्होंने मेडिकल के लिए जितने भी हमारे साइंटिस्ट हैं उनको भी अच्छी तरह से, जो भी जहाँ पे भी जरूरत थी वो मदद की। तो मेरा यही कहना होगा, और सबसे बड़ी बात है ये तो हम एक विषय ये है, पर उसके बाद में कई उदाहरण है। मैं तो जस्ट एक ही बात कह रहा हूँ, विजय कुमारी मैडम भी हैं, और कई बातें हैं। निश्चित रूप से मातृत्व का अभाव मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि कई मामले में इतनी डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशन है, कई बातें सुनने के बावजूद भी उनका मातृत्व का भाव ढला नहीं है। ये भी एक मुख्य रूप से मैं मतलब उल्लेखित करना चाहूंगा। उससे भी बड़ी बात यह है कि हमें दो चीजें मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि हम अर्बनाइजेशन एंड रूरल एरिया, दिशा परिवार के साथ काम करते समय मुझे ध्यान में आया कि सबसे बड़ी बात जो है, जहाँ पे ये सारी जन जागृति करने की आवश्यकता है, वो ग्रामीण भागों में, कि ग्रामीण भागों में ये सारी समानता, ये सब सारी चीजें किस तरीके से हम पहुंचाएं। और वहां पर भी मैंने देखा है कि कई जगह देखा है, इतनी अद्भुत चीजें देखी है कि जहाँ पे मातृत्व का अभाव होता है, निश्चित रूप से ग्रामीण भागों से भी बहुत अच्छे लोग आए हैं, उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा काम करके बताया। तो ये सारी चीजें जो है, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, इन सबको भी, उस कंपटीशन को भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन ना करते हुए ग्रामीण भागों तक में पहुंचाना, ये हमारा कर्तव्य रहेगा। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Milind sir. I think we are done with all the discussion or talks from our panelists, and now we can start. We can open this discussion to our audience, and we can start the open discussion. Anybody who has a question for any of our panelists, I would like you guys to, I would like to invite you guys to raise your hand or just pass on whatever question that you've written down to one of our volunteers. Do we have any questions? Whoever has a question, you can come forward. We have mics.
No, we have them.
Just raise your hand, please. If anyone wants to raise any point or want to discuss something else.
What about you both?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you don't have a question from the audience.
Good evening. It was very enlightening to hear all of you. I just have one question to all the panelists. Do you really think that women are easily accept that they have the submissive nature? They easily accept, okay, fine, if I'm not able to do it, I will try, yes. I'm not talking about the very well, like us, all the women who are in good places and all, but in general, all the women who have like submissive nature, they accept or they give up to the male or the female colleagues. They don't put their point well forward.
Could I answer that? Hello, could I answer that question?
I don't exactly give you the answer for that question, but one point I want to highlight, which may be very much true for this audience, the women students and scientists who are ready to take up any challenge when it is given. So definitely you will be a success. If you shy away from the responsibility at the initial stage, I'm sure at one stage you will regret. So I'm not saying whether you are submissive nature or not, but this is a message. So you see if a challenging problem, opportunity is given to you, you may not realize, but the person who has given to you might have noted the potential in you. But many times women in the early career, they shy away. But later, maybe after many years, they start complaining. So please take up any challenging job given to you. Don't shy away from that. Definitely there's a potential, but which you may not be realizing, but it is there. That is why the challenging task is given to you. Thank you.
I think Rama wants to answer that question.
Yes. Yeah. So first of all, I would like to say that, just to, am I heard?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to say that, just to attribute, adjectives like submissive nature to women is a complete misnomer. And there is nature versus nurture, and in most of India, women are brought up from the day they're born to be submissive. They're taught that being submissive is good. They're given plus points for being submissive. And so that's not their nature. That's what they've been rewarded for or trained for from birth. So I don't think we should think of it that way at all. I don't know whether there's any actual scientific evidence that women are born submissive. So, I think it's dangerous to go down that route. Women can be as assertive and as confident as anybody if they're given the opportunity from the day they are born.
May I also say something to in response? I think that earlier on, solidarity and mentorship were mentioned, and it is indeed true that we may find our colleagues who are women or anybody like our students somewhat reluctant to express their views, to engage in rebuttal, to contradict what is being said. It is up to us to A, express solidarity, B, provide mentorship, whether one-to-one or within a group itself, enable women to be able to express themselves. In general, I think that individual nature has a much larger standard deviation than any mean difference between, male and female averages. Uh, I think there are plenty of women out there who, are ready to speak up and say what they wish. It is more whether the environment receives it positively or not. And that is where we need to focus our efforts. Thank you.
I think Dr. Aditi.
No, I think they just covered. I think the two words, my favorite words are internalized processes, internalized patriarchy, internalized misogyny, internalized racism, fascism. All of it is internalized, and the antidote to that is to decondition ourselves. So we have to break down that personal condition. So I think that matters more than whether women are naturally submissive.
Thank you, Dr. Aditi. I think Shamita Madam wants to.
Yeah. So, adding to what the other speakers have said, my experience is the inclusion of diverse pedagogy into education right from the school level, allowing for problem solving, critical thinking, discussion and debates helps in generating a certain assertiveness, among the girl child. And I think it's essential that if you say it's, this is what we want, then you have to have the system also which brings in this very, very consciously. So, bringing this diverse pedagogy into all levels of education, allowing, women, men, people of all gender to voice is very, very important, because that's an important skill that stands very good in the professional life.
Thank you, Shamita ma'am. I think this is all the time we have for the question, answers, and any discussions. If you have any more questions, maybe we can write it down and forward it to the individual panelists to answer that.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Go ahead. I have two questions. One is to the audience, all the youngsters, including myself. What do you look forward? What are you looking forward from any of your seniors in terms of mentorship? Because that's very important for us to know. And second question is for the men over here. What is it that is your experience in terms of you have done an assertive mentorship of your, female colleagues, going out of way in your whatever projects or work or anything, anything which is a different example where you have gone and have a more inclusiveness in terms of your female colleagues.
About this, just I want to say that whatever, I learned from Dr. Preeti Bhaskar, it was doing PhD, and it went out of way and it faced Silver Jubilee Award.
Somebody from the audience wants to speak. Good evening, everyone. I am Kameshwari from India Meteorological Department. Here, everybody who is talking is about women working between 9:30 to 6 and go back to home in time, and then they have all the time and space to look after the family and the work balance. But we being into the real-time weather data generators, we work 24/7 with transfers. So I have a question for the male colleagues here or the scientists. When the lady is on transfer, are you willing to look after the children in the same way the man is on transfer? And when she's performing a night duty, then can you look after the children the same way? When we have been facing it. I have completed 27 years in this department of India Meteorological, out of which 16 years I am in shift duties. When we used to leave children and go. But I have not seen an experience when on a Ganpati festival day I go to office and the festival will happen perfectly well at home. So along with science, we need to say culture also. So this is a request that the males, when they say about equality, so they should also take the responsibility of teaching culture, the traditions, and cook and prepare for a puja by the time wife comes back to the from office to home after completing a shift.
That's a point well raised. Anybody wants to answer?
Thank you for nice question. I mean, I never wanted to disclose my personal things, but let me tell you, my wife is chartered accountant, I mean, practicing for GST. She has a big firm. Every day she goes around 10 o'clock, but when she comes back, there is no perfect timing. So we have to perform that. I mean, all the duties, whatever it is, respective puja, it is cooking, it is cleaning, anything. I mean, anything you just call the things, and it gives a lot of pleasure also. Thank you.
I understood what he says.
Yeah, and I think that's why he was included in the panel.
This should basically percolate in the society as well, what they are setting an example.
I just want to add to what Majumdarji has said. See, I do help my wife in cooking and all other things. That is different. But I advise you, young ladies, to be a little more smarter at the very beginning. Okay, because you can take a lot of advices from my wife also. Because I will give you, there are many examples. Many examples. One example I will tell you. My little daughter, when she was about a year or so, okay, then you know that the children, kids, they get up in the night, ask for milk. Maybe one year, okay, and she gets up and asks milk to me only. And if mother gets up, she'll cry. See, this is something, some art. Yeah, I asked her. I asked her to come. She didn't come. See, I think Tara also invited her, but she didn't come. I said, you come because you may have a lot of points to share to the audience. So I think there is some, something right. You have to be a little smarter in the early stage. Once you give up in the beginning, but then you don't have any control. See, so very beginning only. So this is
I think I can add to one more smartness.
So whatever Akshara said about the second point, I want to talk about the second point. So one thing that I liked when you were discussing initially, that all ladies project. That is a very good idea. I think I want to steal that opportunity. Yes. So
thank you.
Come up with a proposal, and I try to convince my superiors to get that. So I don't want to boast on what I have done. What I want. So that is one thing that we look for. Thank you.
I'll add one point of smartness which worked with me. So it's by experience. Again, when my kids were small, generally the night time dinner is a difficult one to because you are tired yourself, you don't have energy to feed the kids, and my experience, both my kids were very fussy eaters. So feeding them 1-year-old child is a big task. So what you do is you outsource that to your husband. It's best way. You are peaceful. Second thing is also don't say that I'm outsourcing. It is like bonding between father and the son, father and and that works. And that works well also, and really it works well because generally, I don't want to say generally because my husband, I won't say helps because I want to use the word contribute. Helps is again a gender biased word. When we say my husband is helping me, no. It is our work, we are contributing to each other. That's parenting. So in that case, this bonding actually helps because the father then doesn't have opportunity because we are all the time grabbing that opportunity of bonding because all the time we are with the kids. So this is a good way also to give them a chance to bond with the kids.
So regarding bonding and parenting, I would like to ask the panelists one thing. Like, we have a child care leave for 1 year. that is specifically for women. So 2 years for women.
6 months.
Okay, so whatever it is for women. So I want to know, like, childcare is a process which both men and women both should be taking responsibility of. So even today we have a childcare leave only for women. So what do you think? It should be changed, or there are reasons for that?
If fathers are ready to take care of children, they can leave on, no problem.
What?
Childcare leave.
Childcare leave should be 2 years for men also.
Yes.
There is a maternity leave.
That's just for 15,
Yeah,
20
but
days.
still I think I enjoyed it.
If fathers are
Like, yeah, it should be
ready to take care for 2 years,
First
then
time
they can
fathers have
leave.
to prove that they are parents.
Yeah. Fathers should believe that.
Mother should give a certificate. I think the one thing I want to say that you have a very good mentor here in Akshara. So I think you should mentor our people.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah.
I have a almost 40 minutes presentation. I'm really happy.
Okay, so this was a really enriching. We are running out. We can discuss it later.
Yes.
So yeah, this was really an intense and enriching discussion, and I hope everybody enjoy it. And so we'll be presenting pods to all our panelists present in person.
Thank you. I just want to thank you all, those who have come online and giving us a wonderful time of discussion. And we will be in touch. And actually, we are giving a flower pot to all of these panelists here. So your flower pot you will get when you come to the institute in person, and we hope you will. And thank you so much for giving this opportunity to share your views. It really be very encouraging and enlightening for many of the young colleagues here who are attending. Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste.
Yeah. Do you think the size will reduce?
नको गरज नाही असं चांगलं
Will you take one picture, right?
बरोबर
Please don't go away. We'll take one picture also.
वाईट नाही म्हणजे क्लिअर दिसत
Let us join for a picture and
With the pots.
yes.
And what's our mission is?
त्या पिक्चर
Please, all of you come first.
खुर्चीवर बसल्यावर लागतं ना
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, team.
I hope you all enjoyed that. Sorry, Surya, thank you, Akshara, for
Ma'am, should I stop?
discussion.
Should I stop?
Yeah. Namaskar ji.